I found this at the University of Minnesota reuse store, and its official tag just described it as a thing. The bottom is flat, and it has these wire strips on the side that create tension for the spool to lift as it empties. I assume it is for a roll of paper, but I have never seen such a large spool. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is an industrial tape dispenser, likely for water-activated gummed tape. Unlike standard office tape dispensers, this heavy-duty mechanism uses the side wire strips to apply constant, even pressure against a massive core roll. This tension system ensures the heavy tape unspools smoothly without tangling or unspooling too quickly during rapid packaging operations in high-volume shipping departments. I found this while taking a walk in Missouri. They are a series of small, quarter-inch metal blocks, and all of them are connected by a gummy tape of sorts. I usually have some idea of what things are used for, but this totally bewildered me. Does anyone know what it is? It's a strip of adhesive wheel weights. Mechanics use these small lead, zinc, or steel blocks to balance car tires. When a new tire is mounted, it rarely has a perfectly even distribution of weight. A mechanic mounts the wheel on a spin balancer, which identifies the heavy spots. To counteract any vibrations at high speeds, they cut the required amount of these weights and stick them to the inside flat surface of the rim using the heavy-duty adhesive backing. I heard a crazy noise outside my house last night in northern Mississippi. It sounded like an intense chattering or screaming in the dark. Does anyone know what it is? What you heard is a group of raccoons. Raccoons are highly vocal nocturnal mammals that can produce over 200 distinct sounds, including purrs, whimpers, snarls, and screeches. The intense chattering or screaming sounds are usually territorial disputes or mating calls during their breeding season, which typically runs from January to June. While it can sound quite alarming in the middle of the night, it is completely normal behavior for these common urban and rural scavengers. I run a spa, and recently we have been finding this weird black debris turning up in our laundry, but only in the loads of heavy towels. Whatever it is looks like it might have been a solid piece before going through the washer, flat on one side and bumpy on the other. Does anyone know what it is? It's a concentrated buildup of laundry gunk and detergent residue from the bottom of your washing machine. Modern washing machines feature an agitator plate at the base of the drum that spins to mechanically clean clothes. Over time, fabric softener, detergent, and organic material bypass the standard self-cleaning cycles and accumulate underneath this plate. The extreme friction and water displacement from heavy loads like wet spa towels can dislodge these compacted, moldy flakes, pushing them back up into the wash basin. I found this strange, small, yellow, cylindrical object washed up on a tidal beach along the River Thames in East London. It looks like ocean-worn glass or resin. Suspended inside is a flat piece of paper with writing that looks like test parameters, and on the other side is a small rectangular piece of metal wedged inside. Any idea what it could be? This object is a metallurgy sample embedded in resin. In materials science, when engineers need to analyze a small piece of metal under a microscope, they place the metal fragment into a mold and pour liquid epoxy or acrylic resin over it. Once the resin hardens into a solid cylinder, the sample can be easily handled, polished completely flat, and chemically etched to reveal its microscopic grain structure. Because writing directly on polished resin is difficult and wears off, technicians frequently embed a printed label with the test parameters inside the transparent mold to ensure the sample is never misidentified. This bar and canister are attached to my door frame. It helps the door self-close in a controlled fashion, but the metal bar is bent and definitely needs replacing. I do not know what this contraption is called or where to start finding parts. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a pneumatic storm door closer. Inside the metal cylinder, a spring and an air valve work together to pull the door shut while regulating the speed so it does not slam. The reason your metal rod is bending is because the mounting bracket on the door frame is installed backward. Flipping it will give the mechanism more clearance. Additionally, these doors require a shock-absorbing chain and spring assembly attached to the top. Installing a wind chain will prevent the door from hyperextending and keep the closer rod straight. My mechanic found this heavy plastic block wedged into my truck's subframe during a routine inspection. It features grooved channels held together by heavy metal bolts. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a heavy-duty wire splitter, also known as a cable cleat. These blocks are used to organize, support, and separate giant wires, such as heavy electrical cables on utility poles or power lines for large industrial equipment like forklift chargers. The thick plastic channels clamp down around thick gauges of wire to prevent them from rubbing together, which stops dangerous friction and heat buildup. It likely fell off a utility truck or construction site and bounced up into your vehicle's undercarriage while you were driving. I found these strange spheres in the soil while digging up a garden bed in Sydney, Australia. They feel spongy and rubbery and actually bounce when you throw them against the ground. They are definitely organic and appear to have root structures attached. Does anyone have any idea what they are? What you found is a type of fungi known as an earth ball, or possibly a puffball mushroom. Because they were found buried in the soil, they are most likely earth balls, which belong to the Scleroderma genus. These fungi form round, rubbery fruiting bodies underground that eventually push to the surface to release spores. Unlike true puffballs, which have a smooth, white, marshmallow-like interior when young, earth balls quickly develop a dark, purplish-black center filled with spores. They are toxic and not edible, so it is best to leave them be or dispose of them safely. What is this long pole suction cupped onto the back of a car in a parking lot? There is a metal tip at the end pointing into the air with visible threading. Does anyone know what it is for? This object is known as an invisible selfie stick, designed for a 360-degree action camera. The threaded metal tip uses a standard quarter-inch mount to secure cameras to the pole. As the car drives, the dual lenses of the camera capture a full spherical view. The software then automatically stitches the footage together and completely erases the pole from the final video, creating the illusion of a drone flying directly behind the vehicle. My toddler grabbed this strange object and immediately put it on their tongue. It feels somewhat chalky and is roughly the size of a macaron. I need to know if it is toxic. Does anyone know what it is? It is a calcium block designed as a dietary supplement and food source for aquatic turtles. These blocks are typically manufactured from calcium sulfate and often contain freeze-dried insects or nutrient pellets embedded inside. When dropped into a turtle tank, the block slowly dissolves in the water over several weeks. This chemical process neutralizes acidic water and provides essential dietary calcium to keep the turtle's shell strong and healthy. While certainly not intended for human consumption, the chalky mineral base is generally non-toxic. I found these small metallic cylinders together in a clear plastic bag with absolutely no writing or labels on it. They have a distinct cross shape on top and an opening on the side. Does anyone know what it is? What you found are camlock nuts, a type of specialized hardware specifically used in ready-to-assemble flat-pack furniture. Patented in the mid-20th century to revolutionize modular furniture, these small pieces work in tandem with long cam screws. When you insert the nut into a pre-drilled hole and turn it with a Phillips head screwdriver, the internal angled ramp grabs the head of the connecting screw and pulls the two pieces of wood tightly together. It is a clever piece of mechanical engineering that allows for strong, perpendicular wood joints without requiring traditional woodworking skills or wood glue. Electric workers are installing fiber optics in my neighborhood and left this long, spear-like object stuck in the ground. Are they waging war, or does anyone know what it is? It's a trenching shovel. Often referred to as a ditching shovel, it features a long, narrow blade designed specifically for digging and clearing deep, narrow trenches. When laying fiber optic cables, workers need to bury the utility lines cleanly without displacing too much surrounding soil. The steep angle of the shovel blade allows them to scoop out loose dirt from the bottom of the trench efficiently. It seems one of the workers simply pushed it into the soil to hold it upright while taking a break. I found these round objects sitting in a parking lot. They kind of look like tiny motor parts. They're small and heavy, and the material looks a lot like copper. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a commutator from a direct current motor. This is a critical electrical component used to reverse the current direction between the spinning rotor and the external circuit. As the motor turns, stationary carbon brushes ride continuously along those copper pads to carry electricity into the internal windings. The small bits of colored material you see attached to the edges are actually remnants of the enameled magnetic wires that were mechanically crimped onto the contacts before the motor was broken apart. I found this in a parking lot outside a gaming shop. It is completely knitted, with eyes and ears, and features a smooth, oval-shaped, translucent blue stone floating around inside. It is about 3 inches long. I thought it might be a dog toy, but it seems small enough to be a choking hazard. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a cat toy. Given the small 3-inch size and the knitted texture, it is perfectly designed for a cat to bat around and carry. The smooth blue stone inside likely acts as a rattle or weight to make the toy's movements more unpredictable, simulating the erratic scurrying of a mouse or bug. Crafters frequently knit or crochet these small mice or creatures, sometimes stuffing them with catnip along with a plastic bead or stone to attract a cat's attention. I just noticed tonight that the inside of my snow jacket has this lump sewed into the right shoulder, but not the left. It feels like a piece of foam, measuring roughly 0.5 inches by 3 inches. Does anyone know what it is? It is a Reco Rescue Reflector, developed in 1983 by Magnus Granhed after a tragic avalanche in Sweden. This is a passive transponder designed to help rescue teams locate you if you are buried under snow. The sewn-in lump contains a tiny copper antenna and a diode. When searchers use a specialized detector to broadcast a radar signal, the reflector bounces it back, doubling the frequency and pinpointing your exact location. Because it is completely passive, it requires no batteries and never needs to be turned on. I bought this about 13 years ago at a dusty Army surplus store that no longer exists. I have a fixation with storage containers, and it looked neat, so it came home with me. It is incredibly heavy-duty, made of super thick-walled plastic, and weighs quite a bit even when empty. It has some markings that look like Japanese kanji. Any insight into what its original intention was? What you found is a Chinese military transport case. Specifically, it is designed to hold 1,500 rounds of Chinese steel 5.8 by 42 millimeter ammunition, also known as the DBP-87 cartridge. Introduced in the late 1980s, the DBP-87 is the standard rifle cartridge for the People's Liberation Army. The heavy-duty plastic ensures the ammunition stays dry and protected during extreme combat conditions or long-term storage. Since Army surplus stores buy lots of international military liquidation, these rugged crates often make their way into the civilian market as heavy-duty toolboxes. What is this heavily rusted metal contraption? It appears to have a circular central plate and a set of heavy iron hinges on either side. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as an antique foothold animal trap. First widely manufactured in the mid-19th century by companies like the Oneida community, these mechanical devices were designed to catch and hold fur-bearing animals. The trap works using a heavy steel leaf spring system. When an animal steps on the central trigger pan, the locking catch releases, causing the spring-loaded metal jaws to rapidly clamp shut around the leg. Due to their mechanical efficiency and heavy iron construction, many of these traps survive today, though modern regulations have heavily restricted their use. I found this thick, fibrous, rectangular pad sitting on my garage floor, right under where I usually park my car. It feels like some sort of heavy felt or insulation material. Does anyone know what it is? It's a piece of sound and fire-deadening insulation. Automobile manufacturers install these thick, heat-resistant pads underneath the hood, along the firewall, or above the transmission tunnel of a vehicle. They serve two primary functions: absorbing engine vibrations to reduce the noise entering the passenger cabin, and acting as a thermal barrier. Over time, the plastic retaining clips holding this shielding can become brittle and snap, causing the heavy padding to drop out onto the ground. What is this hot metal box of dirt doing on a grill? My coworker brought a metal toolbox filled entirely with soil and set it directly over the hot coals of a barbecue. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a makeshift soil sterilizer. By baking the dirt over a heat source, the operator is raising the internal temperature of the soil to around 180 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. This simple thermal process effectively kills off harmful pathogens, weed seeds, fungus gnats, and nematodes that naturally live in outdoor soil. Creating this sterile growing medium provides a clean, disease-free environment that is highly beneficial for growing delicate plant seedlings. I spotted this on the California Central Coast. It is a small metal cage measuring about 6 by 4 inches, bolted to the furthest rock you can walk to at low tide. There are no markings on it. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a scientific exclusion cage, used by marine biologists. Researchers secure these metal mesh boxes to intertidal rocks to study marine ecology. By controlling which predators or grazing animals, like crabs and sea stars, can access the patch of rock underneath, scientists can accurately measure how different species impact the growth of algae and barnacles. The heavy bolts and sturdy mesh are strictly necessary to keep the experiment anchored against the constant, pounding force of incoming ocean waves. I was walking on a dirt trail when I spotted this strange coin sitting on the ground. It feels incredibly light and cheap, almost like plastic, and is covered in unusual symbols. Does anyone know what it is? It's a generic toy pirate treasure coin. While it resembles an old Spanish piece of 8 or historical currency, it holds no monetary value. The symbols stamped onto the surface are a completely nonsensical mix of designs meant to look vaguely nautical to a child. These types of plastic and lightweight metal tokens are mass-produced in factories across the globe for board games, party favors, and pirate-themed playsets. I was house-sitting for my boyfriend and found my 13-pound dog chewing on this small plastic spike. He bought the house a few months ago and has never used pest traps, so we think it was very old and likely came from outside. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a poison bait spike, manufactured by the pest control brand Combat. Specifically, this is the plastic plunger or stake component used to secure outdoor ant or rodent poison stations securely into the dirt. The manufacturer has produced these household insecticides for decades, using targeted neurotoxins housed inside larger plastic reservoirs. Fortunately, because this is just the weathered plastic ground stake and not the primary bait reservoir, an animal chewing on it faces a much lower risk of chemical toxicity, though the hard plastic itself remains a severe intestinal obstruction hazard. I keep finding these small, hard, plastic-like beads without holes in the hallway outside my roommate's room. They are almost identical in size and shape each time. I have a crawling baby, so I really want to locate where these are coming from to avoid any hazards. Does anyone know what these are? These are bulk plastic pellets, often referred to in the manufacturing industry as nurdles. Factories use these tiny pre-production pellets as the raw material to melt down and mold into plastic parts. Alternatively, they are commonly used as stuffing for items like bead pillows, weighted blankets, or stuffed animals, which might explain why they are leaking out of your roommate's room. To verify if it is plastic or a moisture-absorbing silica gel bead, you can drop one in water. If it cracks and breaks apart, it is silica. If it remains unchanged, it is a bulk plastic pellet. What is this strange set of small tools with tiny metal loops and scoops on the end? Does anyone know what it is? What you found is an earwax removal kit. Specifically, these tools contain curettes designed to safely extract cerumen, or earwax, from the ear canal. Unlike standard cotton swabs that often push wax deeper and risk impacting the eardrum, the small loops allow you to bypass the blockage and carefully pull the wax out. Medical professionals and audiologists frequently use these instruments, and modern home versions have become widely available as safer hygiene alternatives. I found this strange slot in the wall while looking at a house listing that is for sale. It looks like a small bracket or mounting hardware. Does anyone know what it is? It is a dedicated storage slot for an Allen wrench, also known as a hex key. Often, manufacturers of modern flat-pack furniture or specific wall-mounted hardware will include a small dock to keep the required tool attached directly to the unit. This ensures that if you ever need to tighten the fixture or disassemble the piece, the exact 4mm or 5mm hex key is readily available without having to search through a toolbox. I am trying to fix the handle on a rolling backpack, and I am stuck on the part fixed to the inside. I thought they were screws, but they have completely smooth heads. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a blind rivet or a press-fit fastener. Unlike standard threaded screws, these are permanently set and not intended to be easily removed. During manufacturing, a special tool pulls a metal mandrel through the center of the rivet, expanding the blind end and tightly clamping the luggage materials together. To remove them for your repair, you cannot unscrew them. You will need to use a drill to carefully hollow out the center or use a cold chisel to break the rivet head off entirely. What is this massive vehicle driving down the street at night? It is fairly slow, incredibly loud, and heavily illuminated by bright work lights. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is an asphalt milling machine, also known as a cold planer. This heavy construction vehicle is used to strip the top layer of asphalt from damaged roads. Inside the housing, a massive rotating drum equipped with highly durable carbide teeth grinds the old pavement into small chunks. These broken pieces are then scooped up and sent up a long conveyor belt into a waiting dump truck driving ahead of it. By cleanly removing the degraded surface, road crews create a textured, level foundation for a fresh layer of hot asphalt. I found this little three-pronged plastic object in a small baggie on the floor of my house. I live alone, so I have no idea where it came from or what it goes with. Does anyone know what this is? This object is known as a hard wall picture hanger. It is specifically engineered for hanging heavy frames on tough surfaces like concrete, brick, or cinder block where a standard nail would instantly bend. To use it, you place the flat plastic back against the wall and use a hammer to drive the 3 small steel pins flush into the plastic housing. The multiple pins distribute the load, allowing this tiny piece of plastic to securely hold items weighing up to 20 pounds without crumbling the masonry. What is this large brass statue and where is it located? I came across an image of this striking monument online with absolutely no context. Does anyone know what it represents? It's a bronze sculpture called the Caduceus, created by the allegorical sculptor James N. Muir. It is located in Sedona, Arizona. The monument features an intricate design blending medical and esoteric symbolism, centered around the traditional winged staff intertwined with serpents, a motif historically associated with Hermes and modern medicine. Installed as a piece of public art, Muir's work is known for its high level of detail and thematic focus on healing and balance, making it a prominent landmark for visitors exploring the Sedona art scene. What are these white gelatinous blobs suspended in the collection reservoir of my dehumidifier? I live in a rural environment in Northern California, and while they do not float or have any noticeable smell, they are completely clouding the water. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a bacterial biofilm. Dehumidifier water is essentially a breeding ground. As the machine pulls moisture from the air, it also traps microscopic dust, mold spores, and airborne bacteria. When this water sits stagnant in the reservoir for hours or days, the surviving bacteria feed on the organic matter, secreting a slimy, glue-like substance to anchor themselves together. This forms the white, snotty masses you see suspended in the tank. In industrial settings, this exact type of biofilm can grow thick enough to completely clog drain lines, which is why regular cleaning with vinegar or bleach is highly recommended. I keep hearing this strange noise every night where I live in rural Manitoba, Canada. At first, I thought it might be a type of frog, and an artificial intelligence app told me it was a fox. Does anyone know what is making this sound? It is an American woodcock. Specifically, you are hearing its distinctive peent call. During the spring mating season, the male woodcock performs a unique twilight display. He issues these short, buzzy vocalizations from the ground before launching into an elaborate spiral flight. The sound is often mistaken for insects or amphibians by those unfamiliar with this migratory bird's evening rituals. I spotted this odd, mushy object washed up on a beach in northeastern Wisconsin, right on Lake Michigan. It looks almost biological, but I cannot quite tell. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a heavily corroded piece of fishing tackle, specifically a soft plastic lure designed to emulate a squid. These baits are commonly used by anglers to target predatory fish. Over time, when lost in the water and exposed to ultraviolet sunlight and aquatic elements, the chemical plasticizers break down. This causes the synthetic material to degrade, lose its original color, and take on the mushy, organic texture you observed on the shore. I found these small, decorative items, and I am not sure who gave them to me. They look like rings, but they have little clips attached to them shaped like a hand, a bee, and a rose. Does anyone know what they are? These objects are known as cigarette or joint holder rings. Commonly referred to as elegant roach clips, they are designed to hold a smoking roll securely in place while the user wears the ring on their finger. The clamping mechanism allows the user to smoke without directly pinching the paper. This serves a dual purpose, as it prevents the fingers from getting burned as the cherry burns down, and it keeps the strong odor of the smoke from transferring to the user's skin. I found these tiny plastic rings mixed into an old box of sewing, painting, and stained glass supplies. They look incredibly old, and likely belong to my great-grandmother's crafting stash. Does anyone know what they are? These are vintage knitting stitch markers. In the craft of knitting, these small rings are slipped directly onto the knitting needle between stitches. As the knitter works across the row, they transfer the marker from the left needle to the right. This mechanical tracking method allows the crafter to easily mark the beginning of a circular round, track pattern repeats, or indicate exactly where to increase or decrease the stitch count without having to manually recount every loop. I found this machine mounted up in my attic, and the only thing I know for sure is that it is not a heater. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a positive input ventilation unit, commonly referred to as a PIV. These systems are frequently installed in lofts across the United Kingdom to combat severe indoor condensation and mold growth. The mechanism works by continuously drawing ambient air from the attic space, pulling it through a fine mesh filter to remove particulates, and then gently pushing that purified air down into the living areas. This constant positive pressure forces stale, moisture-laden air out through natural gaps in the home's exterior, keeping the interior environment dry and circulating. I just helped my sister move into her new house, and we noticed these weird rectangular boxes attached directly to the bedroom walls. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is an obsolete telephone line jack. Before the modern, standardized modular connectors became mandatory in the 1970s, telecommunication companies hardwired landline phones directly to the wall using these bulky, surface-mount terminal blocks. Inside the plastic housing, 4 color-coded copper wires connect the external phone grid to the house's internal wiring via screw terminals. These blocks simply bridge the electrical connection, allowing the 48-volt direct current to physically power the bell ringer inside mid-century rotary dial telephones. I live next door to this windowless brick Verizon building, and I am not sure what it actually does. I see workers going in and out, usually at night, and sometimes a truck sits parked outside for months. My brother and I play hockey in the driveway, but we have no idea what goes on inside. Does anyone know what it is? This building is known as a telecommunications central office. Rather than a human workspace, it is essentially a secure, climate-controlled shell designed to house critical network equipment. Inside, massive racks of servers, fiber optic switches, and copper wiring hubs route internet and dial tone traffic for the surrounding neighborhoods. To ensure zero downtime during grid failures, these facilities operate completely independent of the local power grid, utilizing massive banks of backup lead-acid batteries and industrial diesel generators to keep the communications network running continuously. What is this unsettling, futuristic image that I found circulating on TikTok? It looks like a complex blend of human anatomy and industrial machinery, but the video gave no credit to the original creator. Does anyone know what it is? It is an artwork piece heavily inspired by, or directly from, the portfolio of Swiss artist H.R. Giger. Giger's unique style, famously known as biomechanical, seamlessly blends flesh and machine. He rose to global prominence in 1979 when his distinct designs were utilized for the titular creature in Ridley Scott's science fiction film Alien, earning him an Academy Award. His highly recognizable airbrush work was also famously featured on the 1973 album cover for Brain Salad Surgery by the progressive rock band Emerson, Lake and Palmer. What is this bizarre double wooden fence structure, and why is it split right down the middle with a narrow gap between the two identical sides? Does anyone know what it is? This structure is commonly known as a spite fence, the physical result of a boundary dispute between neighbors. When adjacent property owners cannot agree on shared fence maintenance or simply refuse to cooperate, one or both parties will build a fence entirely on their own side of the strict property line. The small gap ensures neither fence illegally encroaches on the adjacent plot. This legal workaround prevents boundary encroachment lawsuits, but it results in a highly inefficient double barrier that is notoriously difficult to maintain or clear debris from. I found this unusual commercial building alongside a local highway. It has an incredibly tall, blank exterior wall on the front, making it look incredibly top-heavy. I originally thought it might have been an old drive-in movie theater screen repurposed into a storefront. Does anyone know what it is? This building features a massive false front, architecturally known as a parapet facade, and was likely built as a roadside fireworks or souvenir store. Historically popular along American interstate highways, these oversized fronts were engineered for one specific purpose: high-speed visibility. By erecting a massive, flat surface extending far above the actual roofline of the building, the owners could paint enormous, brightly colored advertisements to attract drivers traveling at 70 miles per hour. Many of these standalone highway structures originated as seasonal fireworks stands before being sold and repurposed by other small businesses. I noticed this strange slot on my Airbnb door. It's a coin-sized opening, present on both sides, going completely through, and I can even slip a knife into it. Behind the cover are some metal lips that part easily. The door has two standard locks below it, but there are unactivated bolts at the level of this slot. Does anyone know what this is or what it's called? This object is known as a keyhole cover for a round shaft key. Specifically, it protects the locking mechanism for a high-security tubular lock or an older-style deadbolt. When you insert the long, cylindrical shaft of the proper key through those metal lips, it engages with the tumblers inside to throw the heavy bolts you noticed on the edge of the door. The spring-loaded lips act as a dust shield to prevent debris and drafts from entering the sensitive lock cylinder. I bought a mixed pack of music stickers and recognized most of the bands, but I am not familiar with this specific logo showing what looks like three stylized figures in a circle. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is the logo for Third Man Records. This is an independent record label founded by musician Jack White, best known as the frontman of the White Stripes. White established the company in 2001 in Detroit, Michigan, and later opened its headquarters in Nashville, Tennessee in 2009. The label is highly respected for its dedication to vinyl records, analog recording techniques, and unique novelty pressings, serving as a hub for both mainstream and underground rock artists. I was walking my 35-pound Australian Shepherd near my city's green space when he suddenly ate one of these off the sidewalk. It looks and smells like some sort of crumbly treat, but I'm worried about what he just ingested. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is simply a piece of dry dog kibble that has been exposed to the weather. When commercial dog food is left outside, it quickly absorbs moisture from rain or morning dew, causing the compressed starches to swell and expand. Once the sun comes out and evaporates the water, the structural integrity of the kibble is compromised, leaving it highly porous, swollen, and crumbly. It poses no danger to your dog, assuming it hasn't been out long enough to grow mold. I found this little guy while walking a trail in North America, and it has a cute, almost angry face pattern on the back of its head. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a toad. While often confused with frogs, toads belong to the family Bufonidae. They are characterized by their dry, leathery skin, short legs designed for walking rather than leaping, and prominent parotoid glands behind their eyes, which secrete a mild toxin to deter predators. The angry face pattern is simply natural camouflage, helping it blend into the leaf litter and dirt on the forest floor. I was walking through my college parking lot when I kicked this piece of metal. It is curved and looks exactly like a small handlebar mustache. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a linoleum knife blade. Also called a hawkbill knife, this tool features a sharply curved blade designed to pull and cut through tough materials like linoleum, carpet, and roofing felt. The inward curve allows the user to hook into the material and apply downward pressure without the blade slipping out of the cut. It looks like this specific blade snapped off from its handle, likely dropped by a contractor or maintenance worker during a recent campus renovation. I found this lying near the engine filter box under the hood of my 2025 Hyundai. It has a clear casing exposing small computer chips and a USB-C plug at the bottom. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is an external phone light. These compact LED attachments plug directly into the charging port of a smartphone to provide additional illumination for photography or video recording. The exposed circuit board houses the LED diodes and the power management chip, which draws a small electrical current directly from the phone battery. It was likely dropped by a mechanic or inspector who was using their phone as a flashlight to look into the dark crevices of your engine bay during assembly or service. I found this in a professional kitchen, and even with 8 experienced chefs working, none of us can figure out what this piece of equipment is. Does anyone know what it is? It's an Irwin-Ware aluminum citrus squeezer. While it looks like a general kitchen gadget, this is actually a bartender's tool designed specifically for squeezing lemon or lime wedges directly into a glass. You place the citrus wedge inside the hinges, and pressing the handles together extracts the juice while keeping the seeds contained. The Irwin-Ware Company produced many of these cast aluminum bar tools during the mid-20th century, making it a classic piece of commercial mixology equipment. What is this strange setup strapped to the back of a car? It looks to be 2 gas-powered engines with a silver fuel tank. There is a dry 240-volt plug on the right corner, but nothing visible runs toward the charging port. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a homemade electric vehicle range extender. Instead of relying purely on the internal battery, the driver has rigged a gas-powered generator system to provide electricity on the go. The combustion engine spins a generator, converting mechanical energy into electrical current. This current can theoretically be fed back into the vehicle's battery system using that 240-volt plug. However, operating a highly modified, exposed fuel tank and combustion engine strapped to a rear bumper is extremely dangerous and violates basic road safety regulations. I noticed these strange, perfectly round holes in a piece of cooked chicken I was eating. They look almost like empty blood vessels, or maybe even tracks from parasites. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a brine injection mark. Commercial roasting chickens are often processed using a mechanized injection system to add moisture, flavor, and weight before packaging. The meat is passed under a large array of specialized high-pressure needles that puncture the muscle fibers and pump a liquid saltwater solution directly into the tissue. The uniform holes you see are simply the mechanical tracks left behind by these needles during manufacturing, meaning the meat is completely safe to consume. I found this spray bottle labeled tomato leaves with an extra E stored alongside a bunch of cleaning supplies in a cabinet. It actually smells strongly of tomato leaves, but has no vinegar scent like a typical tincture or reduction. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is an organic aphid repellent, specifically a homemade tomato leaf spray. Tomato plants belong to the nightshade family and naturally contain toxic compounds called alkaloids in their leaves. When the leaves are chopped, steeped, and diluted with a few cups of water, these alkaloids are released into the solution. This creates a highly effective biological spray that functions as a neurotoxin to aphids and other soft-bodied insects, but remains completely safe to use around humans and your garden plants. What is this tiny sticker found lying on the floor with the number 5 printed on it? The back of the sticker is covered in little hairs and fibers, suggesting it was attached to something specific before it fell off. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a Quality Control Inspector tag. Specifically, this indicates that Inspector number 5 checked an item on a manufacturing assembly line. Because the adhesive back is covered in textile fibers, it almost certainly fell off a newly purchased piece of clothing. Clothing manufacturers have used these numbered stickers for decades to track which factory worker approved a garment before it gets shipped to retail stores, ensuring accountability if structural defects are found later. I walked outside this morning and found these strange, fleshy masses that suddenly appeared in the grass of my backyard. They are soft, irregularly shaped, and look highly organic, but I have no idea where they came from. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a pile of discarded small mammal organs. Specifically, these are the internal stomach and digestive tracts of a rodent or small bird. Outdoor cats and other local predators frequently hunt small game, but they will instinctively avoid eating the digestive organs because of the acidic bile and rotting stomach contents. The predator surgically consumes the high-protein muscle tissue and leaves these specific innards behind on the lawn as biological waste. I found this unusual metal tool in my garage. It has a long handle and a strange pivoting head with teeth at the end, but I don't know what it goes to. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a basin wrench. It is a specialized plumbing tool designed specifically to tighten or loosen the mounting nuts that hold faucets onto sinks. The long 10 to 12-inch shaft allows plumbers to reach up behind the sink basin where a standard wrench cannot fit. The pivoting, spring-loaded jaw automatically clamps onto hexagonal nuts or pipes. You simply flip the jaw to the left or right, depending on whether you need to loosen or tighten the plumbing fitting. A kid at my work drew this, and I have no idea what it is. I asked him, and he said a name that sounded like Beluga or the Luca. He is obsessed with the show Blue's Clues, if that helps. Can anyone identify this character? This is a drawing of one of the Sunny Bunnies. Sunny Bunnies is a children's computer-animated television series created by Digital Light Studio in Minsk, Belarus, originally airing in 2015. The show features 5 round, colorful, and fluffy rabbit-like creatures who travel across the universe finding adventures. The child's drawing perfectly captures the large ears and round body shape characteristic of these animated figures. What are these 2 bags of brightly colored powders? A friend brought these spices back from Lebanon, but I completely forgot the names of what they are. One is a deep green mix, and the other is a vibrant red-orange. Does anyone know what they are? What you have are 2 different regional blends of za'atar, a traditional Middle Eastern spice mixture. While recipes vary across Lebanon and the Levant, the foundation usually consists of dried thyme, oregano, toasted sesame seeds, and sumac. The green blend heavily features the dried thyme and oregano herbs, giving it an earthy flavor. The orange blend is dominant in sumac, a dried berry that is ground into a coarse powder to impart a tangy, acidic, lemon-like flavor to the mix. It is typically mixed with olive oil and spread on flatbread before baking. What is this funny top hat thing? I always see these white domes while driving in Central Florida, typically mounted on posts near bridges over small rivers or bodies of water. Does anyone know what it is? It's a geostationary operational environmental satellite antenna, commonly referred to as a GOES antenna. These devices are crucial components of hydrological monitoring stations. Placed near bodies of water, they connect to local sensors that measure water levels, stream flow, and weather conditions. The antenna then transmits this data up to a network of weather satellites orbiting the Earth. Government agencies use this real-time information to monitor for flood risks, track water resources, and issue weather warnings. The distinct dome shape protects the delicate transmitter components from harsh weather. I found this thick bundle of cables with colorful ends in my aunt's old closet. She has no idea what they are or what she even used them for, but it is bothering both of us that we cannot figure it out. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a set of RCA component video cables. While they look like standard audio cables, the red, green, and blue connectors carry distinct visual signals. Introduced in the late 1990s as televisions began transitioning to high definition, component cables split the video signal into separate channels for brightness and color. This allowed them to carry 720 and 1080i high-definition resolutions. They were the standard for early high-definition DVD players and gaming consoles before the invention of the single-cord HDMI cable in 2002 eventually rendered them obsolete. I found this strange, oval-shaped object hanging from a branch in my backyard. It looks like a dried, papery pod attached tightly to the wood. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a caterpillar cocoon. Many species of moth caterpillars spin these protective silk casings around themselves before entering the pupa stage. Inside the casing, the caterpillar undergoes metamorphosis, dissolving much of its original body structure and reorganizing its cells to develop wings, antennae, and adult legs. The tough outer shell protects the vulnerable pupa from predators and harsh weather conditions during the transition. If left undisturbed, a fully developed moth will eventually cut its way out of the silk structure. Lots of these strange growths have started appearing in the compost inside our polytunnel in the United Kingdom over the last week. They vary in size from about 1 to 3 centimeters in diameter and have a bowl-like shape. Does anyone know what it is? It's a Peziza fungus, commonly known as a cup fungus. This genus of fungi naturally grows in soils rich with rotting wood, manure, or compost. The distinctive cup shape serves a functional purpose in their reproductive cycle. As raindrops fall into the small 1 to 3 centimeter cups, the kinetic energy from the splash launches the fungal spores out into the surrounding air, allowing them to spread. I found this metal object in the woods near my home, and I have absolutely no idea what it could be. It looks heavy and has a series of bumps along the side. Does anyone know what it is? It's a standard metal T-post used for agricultural fencing. These heavy-duty steel posts are driven directly into the earth using a manual post pounder. The distinctive bumps, or studs, along the spine are specifically designed to hold wire fencing securely in place using metal clips. Near the bottom, there is typically a spade-like anchor plate that prevents the post from twisting or leaning once it is buried in the soil. They are incredibly durable and frequently outlast the actual fences they were originally built to support. What is this strange glass object? It looks exactly like a giant Tylenol capsule, but it is completely sealed and filled with an unknown liquid. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is an antique glass fire grenade, similar to those manufactured by the Firex company in the early to mid-20th century. Before pressurized metal tanks became the standard, these glass bulbs were mounted on walls in homes, train cars, and factories. If a fire broke out, a person would throw the glass grenade directly at the base of the flames to shatter it. The liquid inside was usually carbon tetrachloride, a chemical that rapidly vaporizes when heated, effectively smothering the fire by displacing oxygen. Today, they are considered hazardous because the chemical produces toxic phosgene gas when exposed to high heat. I found this hard plastic clip while downsizing my home, mixed in with my toiletries and accessories. It seems to have some give to it, and it definitely came as a part of something else. Does anyone know what it is? Which of these items surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. For more unknown items, check out the other videos on our channel. Hit like and subscribe.